Good afternoon, everybody. I, Dr. Priyank Singhal from CCSIT, Teerthanker Mahaveer University, welcomes all the participants in this online webinar on cybersecurity. I'm delighted to introduce to all of you about Mr. Arunjit Chaudhary. He is the CEO of EBTS. We are organizing this webinar in collaboration with EBTS. He is having a rich IT experience of more than 30 years for Tier 1 clients across US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. He is having rich experience in managing, building, implementing complex enterprise level projects and programs globally. He is a certified sales and distribution. He's certified in sales and distribution with SAP and certified Scrum Master. And he has taught students across more than 150 plus colleges in the area of SAP, machine learning, and other emerging technologies. On behalf of Teerthanker Mahaveer University, I welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Also, I would like to introduce to all of you with Mr. Kamlesh Joshi. He will be delivering the session. He is the principal advisor for cybersecurity, cloud, IT ops, and other managed services. He is having more than 26 years in experience in information technology. He holds a degree in electrical and electronics engineering and is an MTP alumnus of IIM Calcutta. He has started as an engineer and has grown to play the roles of senior director, COO, CDO, CISO across international organizations. He has the experience of handling onshore and offshore multicultural teams across the globe. He has notable contribution and award-winning performances at organizations like Intel, Microsoft, Mindtree, and many more. He is a multifaceted professional who has handled responsibilities that include planning and strategy, decision-making, design, implementation, project management, IT operations, process compliance, and auditing. He is certified ISO 27001 internal auditing, ITIL 4 and ITIL version 3, apart from being a champion and internal auditor on ISO 2000, ISO 9001 and SEICAM level 5. Teaching and mentoring are his passion and has been involved in tutoring right from his school days. So I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Teerthanker Mahaveer University for being with us. And we are all eager to listen to your views and your knowledge on the topic of cybersecurity.
Thank you, sir. That was a very comprehensive introduction. To put it in simple words, I'm always a student and I'm learning. That is the way, I would introduce myself, wherever I go, right? Throughout my life, typically, I think I have been learning something new, something different, and I continue to be in that mode, in that learning mode. So I will stay a student for a lifetime. Right. Without much ado, let me thank, Teerthanker Mahaveer University for this opportunity and each and everyone who's involved in the process. Apart from that, the audience who are available today, right, who would have, awaited as well as need to wait for another patient hour for me to complete sharing the meager and minimal knowledge that I carry in the area of cybersecurity. Right. Let me get started here. I think my screen sharing has to be enabled by the administrator. Sir, I think you're on mute.
Yes, sir. I am permitting you. I am making you the host.
Thank you.
Now you can share your screen, sir.
Perfect, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Let me get started. I think I've had a wonderful introduction, now, and then I don't need to say anything more than this about myself. Getting started, we'll talk about, what do we understand by cybersecurity? What are the different components of cybersecurity? And what do we cover in our sessions, in cybersecurity? Typically, the way we would give an approach to any of our sessions is extremely industry focused. What happens in a company, what happens in an organization is exactly what we bring down to the slides and the practical hands-on sessions that we take, during the workshop. That's how we take people through. Based on the, profile of the audience, we do make some changes dynamically in terms of what level of, knowledge has to be imparted, how much of basics has to be covered, similar kind of a syllabus that runs through for third semester students, let's say. And for third sem, we would structure it slightly different, and they would not have gone through their computer networks, curriculum yet. So we usually introduce them to some of the basics, get them to understand what the basics on day one, and subsequently we start, getting them closer to how it is actually applied on the devices as well as on the infrastructure. That's the way we usually, structure our curriculum. Now, the topics that we are going to cover today, in case anybody has a question, please feel free to stop me. I would clarify your question and then move forward from there. Just to talk about, the topics that we are going to cover today, we are going to talk about something on security strategy, the framework for which is used, and then what is IT assessment, just to do a touch and go on the assessment. And apart from that, we will get down to the technicals of cybersecurity, where we talk about the infrastructure, what is ethical hacking, what is vulnerability assessment, right? Then we will look at, how do we actually, once we have set up anything, there has to be an infrastructure where we monitor, the vulnerability. So that is where we talk about SIEM and then Security Operations Center. And lastly, and one of the most hot topic, most well-paying topics in the market today is on access management. That also we will cover. And finally, we will touch upon the way we structure our training and why we structure our training that way. And what do we cover in each of those trainings? We give completely a pyramid structure to this industry-focused training or workshop for that matter. Getting started, right? Initially, we started with, just to talk about the history. I'm sure many of you are more aware than what I'm talking about, right? We started with Unix, which was more so like a centralized computing being done at the server. Then slowly we started connecting dumb terminals to it via the serial parallel ports. And then came the Ethernet, RJ45, as well as fiber, right? Then slowly we started connecting these devices. Then once we were evolving on this front, on the connectivity, we were also evolving on the computing front, where rather than having a centralized compute like Unix, we started moving more towards distributed computing, where every desktop, especially on Windows, started processing the data, and then that used to be uploaded to the central server. So this helped more of collaboration. The moment we got into that phase, we wanted multiple locations to be connected. Then, we started the, metropolitan area networks where across the city, there was connectivity which was done. Telecom companies more and more started, becoming a part of this network, where apart from the voice, which was the conventional, mode of transport, the conventional voice which was being carried on the networks started, allowing even data to be carried. And slowly and steadily, by the year 2000, we had already come to the phase of converged infrastructure. India was slightly late in terms of getting into that convergence, but finally we had to somewhere converge, and data and voice can be now sitting on the same infrastructure as such. That's where we moved. There was a convergence. From that, we started moving into bigger spaces where we started getting connected intercontinental via the intersea fiber. That was the emergence of internet. Once we started interconnecting, that was the emergence of internet. And there was no stopping the moment internet emerged. And it has always been growing by the hour, not even by the day. The moment, we had internet, it had every other invention has got two sides of a coin. Similarly was internet. The moment we had a lot of data being churned out, a lot of connectivity happening, there are also people who were trying to disrupt and mess up with the data which was there on the internet. That is where emerged the space of security, right? Secure your infrastructure, secure your space, secure your data, secure your applications, right? It went into multiple dimensions. Finally, from infrastructure security, where we were talking about, perimeter level endpoint security, right? Things like that, we have now emerged into the world of cybersecurity. And we have gone one step ahead, even beyond cybersecurity, where today one of the biggest demands which is being generated is on the cloud security space. Cloud emerged to be the private spaces within the public space of internet. And that again gave space to enough, security inventions which had to be done to keep the public domain itself secure, to keep your private space within that public domain also to be secure. That's how, cybersecurity has emerged. Now, examples of threats, right? If we talk broadly, we talk about cyber crime, cyber attack, cyber terrorism. There is a minor difference between the three, right? But typically these are attacks being launched from people who want to disrupt or mess up with anybody's data or spoil somebody's business. It might be a competitor, it might be a mugger who wants to, take away money from you, or it could be somebody who actually wants your company to be closed down because you're doing too well. Anything could be the reason. It could be a disgruntled internal employee also. In fact, if we talk about the kind of threats which are available, 68% of the threats and 68% of any of the security infringements are done by the internal employees and internal workforce rather than external agencies. That is what the statistics says today, right? So if we need to counter these threats, we need to have a security strategy, right? So security strategy has 4 verticals. One is assess your security requirement. What is your landscape, infrastructure landscape? Based on your infrastructure landscape, right? Start verticalizing the components which are there. Look at one of the key, things which any auditor, I am a ISO certified lead auditor, and one of the first things that we review whenever we go for audits is the asset list. the list of assets which are available in the organization. The moment we see the list of assets available in the organization, typically, we can just give me a minute, please. I'll just go on. Sorry for that interruption, right? So when we talk about the security strategy, right, one of the first and foremost, one of the key things that we look for is the different assets which are organized in an organization. That itself as an auditor gives us an idea what kind of vulnerabilities would be available or we could encounter within the organization. First and foremost, in terms of the security strategy, we assess the security requirements. Next, of course, we do perform a gap analysis. Once we know the set of assets which are there, right, and the requirements, we list out the requirements versus the assets. We also perform a gap analysis where we look for different gaps which are available, right, where there are unfilled spaces. That is what the gaps would mean. Unfilled spaces, there is some space left for hackers to come in. So those are things which we identify. Then we also develop some of the initiatives to plug these gaps, right? And then next, of course, is the implementation, and we transition them to the new security landscape. Those are four wings of the security strategy. That is how we take it together, right? Whenever one has to do a security infrastructure design, this will be one of the first key things, first key activities which a security architect would do. Now, when we have a security strategy, we should be working around more so like a security framework. Now, some of the organizations used to have their proprietary frameworks which were being used in the beginning. Later on, as time evolved, right, and people found the need for standardization, NIST came up with a framework. NIST is one of the central agencies, in the United States, which has been defining, security in IT, typically any of the IT initiatives as well as process, right, and frameworks. That is what NIST has been doing. And one of the NIST frameworks that we have, for security, right, for cybersecurity, has 5 wings in it. The first step is going to be identify, right? As I mentioned, what assets are available, have been implemented within the organization. What kind of processes does the organization, follow? And what kind of security measures has the organization taken, right? These are things which we do in the identify phase, and what kind of protection would be required against these assets. That is the fourth thing that we do in the identification phase. Second, phase is going to be the protect, where we plan and implement enough safeguards, to protect those assets, right? Assets are the key. These could be the application assets, data assets, any of them for that matter, right? Next step we take is to protect them. The moment we protect them, we will also have to keep monitoring whether, we have done adequate, which is beyond, the protection that we have created, right? Similar, something like the incident today, right? Some unauthorized party has an access to the link, either through hacking or by somebody has shared it. And that's how they are able to gain access into this one. They would want to disrupt the session, right? Disrupt any of the infrastructure. That typically happens. That is where security becomes, very, very important. Whether it is a research organization, whether it's an educational organization, institution, whether it is a corporate, whether it is an IT company or a manufacturing organization, security is becoming, of umpteen importance. Security is being given one of the highest priority right at the CXO level. right? Next is we build mechanisms to monitor, right? And then ensure that, continuously the infrastructure is monitored in case there are security incidents. We should be able to detect these incidents, and subsequently we should be able to, rectify this incident, which is the next phase of it, which is respond, right? Where we respond. To contain, first is to limit any of such incidents which could happen. Second is, response is to mitigate and then clear any of the issues which would have happened. Then, of course, in case there has been a disruption, right, we should be able to recover and restore it back to the normal operation, right? These are 5 arms of the framework, and typically any of the process will follow these 5 arms. And any organization we take, right, their security framework, or say their security organization, would have all these 5 wings available, within the organization. Next, of course, is IT assessment, where we do the overview of security, look at different assets. This helps to continuously keep an assessment on the health of the organization, as well as the health of the security measures that we have taken. And this would follow a set of policies and procedures that would be implemented based on one of the standards, industry standards, right? Then we also do the risk identification and risk remediation, right? Unless we do remediation based on their priority, right? Risk identification would not be extremely meaningful for that matter. And of course, assessments are also meant to maintain and manage any of the regulatory compliance. Suppose we are ISO 27001 certified organization, or Sarbanes-Oxley certified organization, or HIPAA compliant organization. There continuously we'll have to keep monitoring and managing, whether we are in line with the compliance and the standards which are specified. Now, moving on, that is about assessments. Moving on, let's move into the technicalities of it, all the technical areas which we engineers are more interested to know, right? Any of the cloud or on-premise infrastructure would carry some of the physical assets, which are like network switches, routers, wireless access points, right? Firewalls, the IDS, IPS, antivirus, anti-malware. These have been categorized into, under separate categories because the functionality what they have is different. Next, of course, is the servers and the virtual machines, the storage, which is, extremely critical. Today, the biggest asset for an organization is the data. It is not the applications, it is not the hardware infrastructure, but it is the data which is based on the, which lies on your storage, right? Then, of course, the application assets, different web applications, the ERP, CRM, e-commerce, and most important of it, all is the data assets, right? It could be the financial data, the employee data, personal data, health data. HIPAA is one compliance which defines the way data should be handled pertaining to any patient data for that matter, or any of the health data pertaining to a user, pertaining to a customer. The way it should be handled, the way it should be kept secure is what HIPAA defines. Right, moving on, we will now slowly jump into the core cybersecurity topics. Till now, we were doing more of a study about information technology. Now we will get more into the core cybersecurity areas. One of the, again, highest paying jobs, school kids are into this area today. It is vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, right? Penetration testing is all about, scanning some of these infrastructures or applications, and then looking at the vulnerabilities which we find, going and attacking those vulnerabilities, or those ports which are open, or those pipes which have a through hole, right? That is what VAPT would do. type of vulnerability assessments that we do is one is a host-based, where we look at, suppose for instance, we are going to look at a server as a host, right? That host, we are going to do some web application. We are going to attack that host, and then we do a scan on that host and first find the vulnerabilities. Once we find the vulnerabilities, we try to exploit these vulnerabilities. Next is a network-based, most popular, what most of us know in the market today, where we go and scan the perimeter, of any of the infrastructure or organizations, and mostly we find the different vulnerabilities the way we can get into this space. Network-based vulnerabilities are also pretty high when we talk about the cloud space, because that the data in the cloud space actually lies in the public domain, right? I think Harjinder has a question. Harjinder, please go ahead. Okay, I will move on. Third type of vulnerability assessment that we do is database based, right? Where data is the most critical, component. So to protect the data lies in the database. That is where we have to do database, based vulnerability assessment for any of the infrastructure for that matter. Apart from, of course, this is apart from what we do application pen tests, right? Very, very popular. Most of the application developers, most of the companies who do a lot of application development hire us as, VAPT consultants. Across the year, we keep doing vulnerability assessment of their application. We try to penetrate through different modes. Every time they are going to release a patch, every time they're going to release they have a new release, they would ask us to come and do a vulnerability assessment onto the application, right? Now, on the vulnerability assessment, we first and foremost, we are going to set up using the different tools. Second, of course, we execute the tests. Third, we do the vulnerability analysis and report. Most critical part of the VAPT for a VAPT consultant is vulnerability assessment and reporting. Whenever we take up our trainings, we emphasize a lot in this area where we talk about vulnerability assessment and reporting. If we had a little more time, I would have shown you some of the reports which are done by third semester students of an institution where we completed the training about 2 weeks back, right? This was an assignment we did, live hands-on vulnerability assessment, penetration testing, and they were supposed to produce reports. We had a deadline of about 3 days within which they were supposed to submit their reports, and in 3 days, we had all the students who had submitted their vulnerability analysis reports, right? Typically, that's the way it runs in the industry, and that's the one we bring in to the classroom. Then, of course, we also talk about remediation, right? Once we find the vulnerability, as a noble citizen, we are supposed to help the customer to remediate these vulnerabilities, ensure that they close the doors wherever it's open, and ensure that their application, their infrastructure is going to be safe and secure. Now, one extension of VAPT is ethical hacking, right? Ethical hacking is all about unauthorized access, right? Into unauthorized attempt and unauthorized access into a system or into an application or into data or into an organization or into a floor or, into any of the, data which they would have stored, or into a cloud platform. Any of these would be termed as ethical hacking. Now, is ethical hacking dangerous? Yes, it is. But is ethical hacking something which is practiced in the industry? Yes, that is also true. We have different categories of hackers, like I am categorized as a white hat hacker, right? So white hat, gray hat, and black hat hackers. I'm sure most of you are aware of these terminologies. Who is a white hat hacker? He's going to take permission. He's going to define the tools. He's going to define the techniques he's going to use for him to do the hacking. Finally, he would also produce a report and give it to you as a noble citizen to say that these are the vulnerabilities in your application. These are the vulnerabilities, open ports in your perimeter security. Once he gives the report, you can go and then close those ports or say close the vulnerabilities by appropriate actions. That is a white hat hacker. He is a noble citizen. Other hacker is a black hat hacker. People who come in for certain gain or to disrupt your company, like somebody has had gained access into our session to spoil the session, to disrupt the session, right? That kind of a person is called as a black hat hacker. Right? They are mainly meant, their main objective is to disrupt, to mess up, to spoil, what is currently available. It could be an application, it could be the network, it could be the data, right? People introduce, these black hat hackers can introduce, malwares. They could introduce any of the Trojans. They can introduce viruses to ensure that, the data which you carry, the applications that you carry are actually spoiled, right? And of course, we have gray hat hackers. That is a new terminology which has emerged. Earlier, we used to have only either a white hat or a black hat. Black hat, more so like a, black hat is more like a terrorist who's going to spoil the stuff. He has come only to disrupt. A white hat is a noble citizen who's trying to help you and then provide the reports of the vulnerabilities which you have so that you can go ahead and close it. In between, we have a gray hat. We have hired a white hat hacker, to identify the vulnerabilities in our organization, right? He finds that this is a bank which has hired me. I know how to get into their database and then take away the money. Suddenly he becomes greedy. He can be a dangerous guy he can turn into a black hat hacker any day. Such hackers who are supposed to be white hat hackers, but could become dangerous at any time. They could become the agents of ransomware. Those guys are today termed as gray hat hackers. Okay, what are the common vulnerabilities which these hackers actually exploit, right? Or ethical hackers usually indicate is different injection attacks. If you have a SQL server where you have your database, there's a technique with which you do the SQL injections and you can create an attack on the database itself. Second and one of the common factors which is seen for attacks is broken authentication, very loose passwords, no password policy, no password change policy which is implemented. Every 90 days, you should change your passwords. None of those policies are implemented. For years together, people are maintaining the same policy, right? And they don't have a specific length, minimum length of the passwords which are defined for authentication. The method of authentication is pretty loose. Those can be some of the reasons for vulnerability. It could also be like you have shared your password with your friend, and your friend uses your laptop to get into your bank account. That is still a black hat hacker. That's still black hat hacking for that matter, right? Next is, of course, security misconfigurations. We find this to be the next common factor within the industry. Misconfiguration is one of the key reasons for hacks which are happening around the world, right? Known vulnerabilities, the way Microsoft keeps releasing patches for different vulnerabilities, that is because these are known vulnerabilities and the hacker knows that you are using a Windows server and it has 1, 2, 3 different types of vulnerabilities and he can exploit these vulnerabilities to get it, right? These are known vulnerabilities. And sensitive data is actually exposed. Suppose the employee database or the employee data is just kept in a folder, right, which is accessible to anyone and everyone in the organization. That is an expose of sensitive data. That could be another. The different techniques there which hackers use is bait and switch. Keylogger used to be one of the very popular, applications which was being built a few years back. Today, keylogger is no more as popular as it used to be earlier, but still it is being used, especially when you try to, use your credentials, type in your credentials on banking websites. That is where most of the banking websites today, they say, do you want to use an online keyboard, right? So that your clicks on the keys what you're going to depress will not be tracked, cannot be tracked. If it is on your own keyboard, it could be tracked with the application sitting on your laptop or PC. Denial of service, one of the common attacks which is happening. Denial of service, as the name suggests, right, typically happens to deny the services which are there. They will come and completely block your network port, your internet access. They will dump so much of data, they will pump in so much of data on your internet pipe that nobody in the organization is able to access internet at that time. They don't have any malice intentions of spoiling the data. It is just that they want to prevent people from accessing any of the resources. It could be processor resource, memory resource, the network resource, the internet bandwidth, anything that could be. But denial of service attack is launched that way, where they push in more than enough data just to block any of the resources and ensure that services are not available. This is extremely common. Suppose you have a year-end sale on one of the popular e-commerce sites, right? One of the ways that they're going to, block the e-commerce site from doing business is they will pump in so much of data onto the website that other people cannot access the website and they will not be able to purchase anything from the site. This is one of the common things which you can see, the year-end sale, the Christmas sale, which happens. One of the common things, I'm sure many of the e-commerce sites will face, and we will see a lot of, press around denial of service attacks, which happened on different e-commerce sites in the coming month, in the month of December, for that matter. Right, cookie thefts. Cookie thefts is again very, very common. That is where we don't store the cookies as far as possible on our laptop or on our mobile phones today. Viruses, Trojans, very common. Again, they can come via emails. They can be sent through websites. Viruses and Trojans are going to disrupt the data. They are meant to spoil your data. They are meant to modify your data. Right? That's the difference. Whereas some of the other attacks like DOS attack is just to disrupt. They will not spoil your data. What are the different teams which are there? Blue teams and red teams. What is the work of a red team? Right? A red team plays the role of an attacker, trying to find vulnerabilities. The way we had the white hat hackers, black hat hackers, these guys form a part of the red team. A red team usually, when we say a team, it means to say that it could be a part of the organization. So red team mostly is termed, is associated with white hat hackers for that matter, who are going to create attacks and then find the vulnerabilities. They will also report the vulnerabilities back. What does a blue team do? Blue team is the monitoring team, is the mitigation team, which is sitting within the organization, trying to defend against any of the attacks. That is what blue team does. When you have a white hat hacker, he will do the different hacks, give the vulnerability assessment report to the blue team, and the blue team, he's a part of the red team. So he will give the report to the blue team. Blue team will go and fix all those vulnerabilities which are reported by the red team member. That is the way they handshake and they work well within an organization. Now, what is a purple team? Again, evolved like a gray hat hacker. Third term which evolved out of this is a mix of red team, blue team members who share the knowledge, right? This is, the primary objective of it is to bringing in the purple team is that there is open exchange of data between the red team, members who are going to create the attacks and create the vulnerability assessment reports. And that is very easily shared with people who are supposed to fix those, right? So red team it comprises of people who create the attacks, provide the report of vulnerabilities. Blue team is a team which actually fixes it. It is the monitoring SIEM and SOC kind of a team, which is going to the L1, L2, L3 teams, which are going to fix these issues which are there. Okay, what does the red team do? They are going to use different modes and techniques, social engineering or pen test, the VAPT that we just saw, where they're going to use different tools like Nessus, Nmap, Wireshark, right? Different tools like that to do the penetration testing. Each of these tools does a different activity. And usually when we do our trainings, we take people through at least 2 of these tools, and then they get a complete hands-on on these tools, right? And then they try to intercept the communication. They also make recommendations, as I said, for security improvements. What do the blue team members do? They do the security posture analysis. What is the current security posture, right? What is the digital footprint available in the organization? How is it growing? Or how is it shrinking? How is it growing, right? These are things which they do. DNS is one of the most vulnerable servers within the infra. They keep doing the DNS audits. Okay. Installing, configuring firewalls, endpoint security, and monitoring the network activity. They do monitoring. They also mitigate any of the vulnerabilities which they see. So that is the activity of the team. SIEM and SOC, right? Now, once we have spoken about VAPT, ethical hacking, we spoke about the red team side of it. Now we will talk about the blue team side of it, where you have a security operations center, and there are different tools for security information and event management. That is a SIEM, as it is commonly called, right? This is meant for monitoring and the basic mitigation of issues, security issues which are seen, right? You have a lot of open source softwares. Usually we use all the tools, in fact, today that I'm using and helping the students to work on are all open source tools, so that neither the institution nor the students need to go and pay any money for the licenses. These are tools which can be freely used, for learning purposes, right? Now, again, in SIEM, right, we can use multiple tools. There are in SIEM, we are going to combine some of the tools which we use. They are not pure security only tools. They cyber security only kind of tools. They just don't handle only the security part of it. They also monitor the infrastructure, right? So these are IT tools, and these also are security tools combined together. We use in a SOC. These IT tools were used only in the NOC. Even today we bifurcate and then we identify them only with the NOC. But as such, in the SOC, we need the asset information, we need the connectivity information, for which reason we have to share this information, as well as combine the information for us to find security vulnerabilities or any of the security incidents for that matter. I think Daniel is trying to raise his hand. Any questions, Daniel? Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Daniel has asked how we can come over from ethical hacker. He has mentioned his question in the chat. He's
Perfect.
asking.
Perfect. Okay. Yes. How can you overcome? Take enough measures, to keep your infrastructure secure. Don't leave any loopholes. You yourself can do, suppose for your laptop, do a vulnerability assessment, get a friend. You have enough open source tools which are there. Try to attack your own laptop from the other laptop. See what kind of vulnerabilities it could be, posing. Based on those vulnerabilities, go and close those vulnerabilities which you find. Right? One of the simple things that you can do is enable your Windows firewall. Right? Typically close all those ports which you don't use. Suppose like you don't regularly use FTP port. You don't regularly use anything like port 22, right? So go and close those ports. And suppose you don't have an application which is going to use your SMTP, or it's going to use any of the IMAP ports or POP3 ports, you can go and close those ports because you don't use them on your laptop for that matter. Does that answer your question, Daniel? Okay, moving on, maybe towards the end again, we'll spend some time taking all the questions, right? Moving on, we need to have, we have now procured some of these tools. We need a placeholder where the tools as well as the people who are going to be part of this team are to be based, right? That is going to be your security operations center, right? Security operations center would have a continuous 24/7 kind of a monitoring. You have central visibility on the entire infrastructure and the components and assets which are there in the infrastructure, basically because you want to understand what is the threat profile, where is the threat coming from, right? And third activity which is done in a SOC is threat hunting. Threat hunting is one of the key terminology used in the security world today. We keep looking for different vulnerabilities based on the tickets, the event incidents or events that are coming in. Based on that, we do the threat hunting and we keep looking for different threats, either from external sources or from internal sources. And once we find a threat, we are going to take action to ensure that we are going to mitigate any of such threat in the future. The way we said, enable your firewall on your local laptop, block all those ports which you don't use, right? Those are some of the follow-up steps which you do once you find that there is a threat or there is an open port. This could be a possible space for vulnerability for an attacker. Next, of course, what is done in the SOC is incident and problem investigation. One of the key activities which is done in a SOC is incident or problem investigation. Now, let me appraise you about some of the ITIL terminologies. Right, ITIL again is a standard set to define the terminologies in the IT world. Right, what is an event? Right, an event is something where it continuously keeps happening. It does not indicate any kind of disruption. It could be something which indicates a normal activity. Simple example. I come into the office at 9 and I log in at 9 a.m. That's an event which happens every day. And I am supposed to be logging in at that time. But we still need to capture what time I logged in because my attendance is based on my login time. So at those times, we capture that as an event. It does not spoil anything. It does not create it does not raise an alarm. It's a normal activity which happens, and continuously such events you will find. Your login, your log out, any of the applications that you access, that is a normal activity what you do, and that's an event. What's an incident? It is an event, but something which could be disruptive, which indicates that there is something wrong. That becomes an incident. Whenever we have an incident, we have to go and fix that incident. These incidents can be categorized, the severity of these incidents can be categorized as L0, L1 or S0, S1, S2, S3, S4, all the way up to S5. That is severity 0 to 5. Usually severity 0 and 1 are severities, high severity incidents. Lower the number, higher the severity. That is how we treat it. And S0, the severity 0, or L0, the way we term in some of the places, L0, L1, that is level 0, level 1, or S0, S1, severity 0, severity 1, are highly critical incidents which have to be acted upon immediately. So you have something called as SLAs, which is service level agreements. So service level agreements define within how many minutes are you supposed to respond back for a S0, S1 incident? How many minutes you have for you to respond back to an S2, for an S3, for an S4? Each one has a different time frame for first response. Second is you have to remediate the issue. S0, S1 means it is affecting the entire organization, right? Simple thing. There is a fiber cut on the road. Somebody is digging the road and there is a fiber cut and the internet access to the entire organization is gone. That is a S0 or a S1 kind of an incident where entire organization is affected. How do you mitigate that? You have a second fiber run from a different service provider. You switch over to that internet service provider just to ensure that you have restored at least temporary restoration of the services which were being run. Next, we find that there was an incident. There was a server which was going down, right? It went down at 10 a.m. Again, we fixed the issue. It went down again at 2 p.m. Right? Same problem, same symptom, same kind of result. 2 p.m. again, we went and fixed it. It went down again at 4 p.m. It doesn't indicate only an incident, that multiple recurrences of such incidents also say that there is a different reason why this incident is continuously happening. So we go and do a root cause analysis. Such incidents which convert into something which is going to culminate into a root cause analysis and ultimately fixing that are called problems. Mostly you will find recurring incidents will actually lead into a problem. Mostly, it need not be a rule, but mostly what we find is some incident which is recurring multiple times in a short duration will actually culminate into a problem. There's a different reason why application is, was restarting. And that is why all our access was disrupted 3-4 times a day. When you go and investigate, you find that one of the memory module in the server is actually faulty, due to which this application was restarting. The moment it tries to use that memory module, right, it loses its way and you find that application was restarted. That could be the problem statement. We do a root cause analysis on it. We look at the logs, how many times did it occur, what was the reason. Based on that, we do a root cause analysis, then go and fix the root cause of it. That is called problem. These are some of the ITIL terminologies used in the IT world, right? Then, of course, we have something called as change management. Whenever you want to bring a change, whether it is a configuration change, device change, whatever the case might be, you take appropriate approvals at different levels and then make that change, just to ensure that the change is not going to create any kind of a disruption within your infrastructure. That is about change management.
Kalmesh, I think we have only 2-3 minutes, so you may want to quickly wrap up.
Okay. So I will, maybe we come to the last topic. We have spoken about SIEM and SOC. There has to be continuous monitoring and then mitigation of these issues. We spoke about that using different tools, maybe like SolarWinds or say Manage Engine. These are some of the tools which we use as SIEM tools, right? Security, information, and event management tools. Next, we come to access management, one of the largest space wherein security incidents are happening because of wrong access or very weak passwords. That is the reason, initially we had LDAP servers, lightweight, directory access protocol servers. And then LDAP evolved into, when Windows brought out their Windows server, they brought up the Active Directory. Active Directory could do the AAA, that is, authentication, authorization, as well as accounting. The AAA today is done by specialized platforms called access management platforms. Today we have, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, AAD as it is called. That is an access management platform which you can use across your infrastructure as well as across the cloud. That is one platform which can be used. One of the highest paid guys today are in this space, in the access management implementation space. People need specialized expertise to become an access management, architect, right? And define all the rules as well as methodologies based on the organization. It is going to be very unique to every organization and every department of the organization. The way the access is defined, that is the way it would be structured in the IAM2, and it's going to be implemented across the organization. In IAM, difference between IAM and PAM. PAM is privileged access management. IAM is identity access management. Identity access management is meant for every user within the organization. Every user becomes a part of the identity access management, where what kind of passwords they are supposed to use, what kind of access they have to have, what are the resources that they use within the organization. All these are defined in access management, in identity access management. Privileged access management is only restricted to privileged users. Privileged users would be there could be multiple levels of privileged users in the organization, right? Suppose in your institution, you have the super user who's going to be manage the entire infrastructure, all the applications. He has an access to all of them, right? Whereas somebody within just the engineering college needs to have access only to the engineering resources. The administrator for the engineering college will fall as one of the user within the PAM, privileged access management. He is the privileged user. He can provide rights for different departments, different applications which people are using. So he is the privileged user. That is one user who is defined in the privileged access management. Right now, we need these bifurcations because today's infrastructure is becoming common. You have the employees, you have contractors, you have vendors, right? And you have customers also accessing your infra. That's the reason, you have to bifurcate and then identify the access level which is required for each of these users, whether within the organization or external to the organization, and ensure that the access is pretty much restricted. The moment you have restricted access, that itself is going to reduce your security incidents by half. Okay, that's about identity access management and privileged access management. Let me talk a little bit for a minute about industry readiness workshops which we conduct. In cybersecurity, the way we do is, for simple, as soon as a student comes in and then he gets into his stream, he has finished his second sem, he's done with his first year, that is second sem, he comes into his stream of study. That is, if he is a computer science student, if he's an electronics student, either he's a mechanical student, they will come into their specific streams. That is when we start developing their capabilities such that we can point them by the time they come to their campus interviews, they are certified people. We give them a direction. We give them a complete pyramid kind of a structure where they do a very focused study during these internships. During second sem, we are going to talk about network and security infrastructure, the first couple of slides that we spoke about, VAPT ethical hacking, the next 3 slides that we spoke about, right? Access management. We are going to talk about every vertical within cybersecurity. They are endeared to the different topics which are there in cybersecurity, and they also gain hands-on in each of these topics. If there are 6 topics, all 6 topics, they are going to have some hands-on activity. So typically they know how this actually works, what happens in these areas. In fourth sem, we are going to go deep dive. Suppose I have 60 students in the second sem, across being trained. Out of that, there are some 20 students who want to do mainly network and infrastructure security. We take these 20 students and get them ready only in this area. The next 20 students want to become ethical hackers. We ready them on ethical hacking. We do a deep dive into 2 of these areas which we have handled in the second sem. Two areas where network, in the infrastructure, where we talk about the network, servers, virtual machines. These are things which we take on one vertical. 20 students do it for VAPT, ethical hacking. They deep dive into how to do penetration testing, how to do network testing, how to do host-based, how to do database-based. How are they going to hack into any application? Those are things which they learn. Access management, we dive deep into access management, where we talk about policies, procedures, what are the limitations, right? What are the different tools that are used for access management? We deep dive into identity access management as well as privilege access management. How do they work in conjunction? How do they work in parallel in any organization? And we work on some of the tools in each of these areas, right? It is a complete deep dive in fourth sem. By the time they come to sixth sem, we get them to do a certification training where in network infrastructure security guys will do CCNA, CCSA. People in VAPT ethical hacking, they get certified. It is a 30, 40-day kind of a course, and they completely do a certification course and get certified on ethical hacking. They already have the background. They have done their deep dive in fourth sem. So probably if a normal guy would take 40 days for his training, these set of people will do it in 15 days or 20 days for that matter, right? They can get through the certification. By the time companies come to interview, your students, pretty much these people are certified, right? Very proudly, you can go and tell the company is saying that, I have 60 certified guys with me in each of the areas, right? It is for the company to choose, right? How many they can take, right, out of these 60. So this is the way we get people industry ready, and they are fully certified. By the time they finish their final year, right, they are ready for employment. They are already there. In fact, I know of students, there are a couple of them who have worked with me. One of them is an engineering student. He's in his third year engineering, right? He's a mechanical engineering student for that matter, but he's a registered ethical hacker. He has completed his CEH. He does ethical hacking on a part-time. He is earning while he's learning through vulnerability assessment projects, which are provided. He earns money through that. That's the way world is going, and then that is the caliber of students today. For which reason, giving a career direction to them is going to really gain and then help them in their future days. So thank you. I would like to close my. I think I would skip this video right now. So
there's one question, Kalmesh.
Yes.
Yes.
It's regarding some dark website.
Dark web, is it?
Yes, one of the participants is asking how we
asking.
can access the dark web website.
How can we access the dark web website? Right. Dark web website resources are available, across the internet. Right. And then probably we can go and look at some of these, dark web. Typically, these are places which would define the way we spoke about black hat hackers, right? Typically, the kind of websites which are defined here are the hacking websites, right? Probably, you can connect with me. I can give you a little more tips in terms of a dark web, how to create your access for the dark web.
So I think if any more participants have any of the queries, you are free to ask the question. Just put your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. We will allow you to ask. Any questions from anybody? So I think there are no more questions from the participant sides. And on behalf of Teerthanker Mahaveer University, I am really thankful for the association of your organization, and also the insights you have given to our participants regarding cybersecurity threats, security strategy, some about cybersecurity framework, how VAPT is existing, how it is being used by the people, about ethical hacking, and a lot many things you have tried to cover up in a very limited time period. But 100%. It was really interesting for all the participants. And I feel, depending on the students' feedback, we will get back to you, and we can look forward to some more interesting sessions. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Thank you to Mr. Kamlesh Joshi and also to Arunjit Chaudhary, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. That is all for this. Yes, sir. Yes, please.
No, thanks a lot for all your patience. I hope that this would help you make your decision in the direction of, training your students on cybersecurity. In fact, interestingly, the last session that we completed, we had mechanical and civil engineers in our session, in our internship workshops.
Okay, that's nice. Before I officially end this webinar, I would like all the participants just to switch on their cameras, and we can have one group screenshot. All the participants are requested. Yes, you can please switch on your cameras. Okay, thank you. Thank you to our keynote speakers and also to all the participants. And we have definitely seen that it is really required that people should have some awareness about cybersecurity, as it is the need of the hour and very much required for all the organizations. Thank you everyone. That is all for this session. Thank you.
Great.